and subscribe.
Fight fans, welcome. I've got a special show today. On my channel, we've had the fighters on, we've had the trainers on, and today we've got a special guest. We've got MC and ring announcer for Queensbury and Riyadh season, Thomas Triber. Thomas, how are you doing?
I am fantastic, Darren. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. It's great to get you on, and thank you for your time for coming on today, which I'll say that at the end as well, but I'll say it at the start. Just looking to start with, to get a bit of background information on how basically you started in ring announcing. I've got that you're from San Antonio, Texas. Obviously, you travel worldwide with what you do for your job. But how did it actually begin with the ring announcing?
Well, I grew up in the Chicago area. That's where I'm a native of the Chicago area. Spent the first 40 years of my life there, and I've been in San Antonio now 11 years. But as a kid growing up, I was always a big pro wrestling, and I did enjoy watching boxing, but more of a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And I just always, from a young age, had an interest in being an announcer in some way. I certainly didn't think of ring announcing as a career, but at 17 years old, I got hired for my first ring announcing job, and that was with a professional boxing event. Then I eventually started doing pro wrestling shows as well. So got a really early start at it. I was just a senior in high school when I first wore a tux in a ring.
Yeah. Well, you say you're pro wrestling then. Did you, obviously you've got the big boys in the game, your WWEs and things like that. Did you ever get any spots with them?
I never, as a ring announcer, I never did ring announce for WWF or WCW, but I did transition to becoming a professional wrestler, and I did that for 2 years. Brilliant. And with that is where I had the opportunity to wrestle for WCW World Championship Wrestling, where in 1993, when I wrestled for them, I was only 19 years old.
Okay.
They were, the number 2 company under the WWF, or as it's known now as WWE. So I was enhancement talent. I was a guy who, would come in, be brought in to lose, or a jobber, they would call you. I was Tommy Tanna. That was my name. Yeah. Tommy Tanna, Tanna, and really enjoyed it. Being that I broke in the wrestling business as a ring announcer, it led me then to an opportunity to train and actually become a professional wrestler. I also had a background in bodybuilding, so it kind of had tied in with, getting myself in the ring, actually wrestling, and really enjoyed it, and had, some opportunity there with to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was stunning Steve Austin at the time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
He was in a tag team called the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman, Flying Brian Pillman. So if anyone watching, you go on YouTube and put in Hollywood Blondes versus jobber Tommy Tanna, you'll see me at 19 wrestling Steve Austin.
No way. I'll have to clip that part specifically so people have a look on YouTube for that. I was a big fan of wrestling growing up, and there's some of the names you mentioned there: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Flying Brian Pillman. I remember all those names. I was a big fan of it. Fascinating stuff that is. I had absolutely no idea about that, so I'm glad we got that out of you there. Yeah. Also, obviously, getting back to the boxing, this weekend we've got a big event in Manchester labelled The Last Dance. Derek Chisora versus Otto Wallin. Are you really looking forward to this show? Do you feel excited to be back in the UK again?
Absolutely. This is the first Queensbury show of 2025.
Yeah.
And, after the incredible year we had in 2024, you think to yourself, how can we even top that? Almost 100,000 fans at Wembley Stadium. But they have got some big plans. I'm just super excited. From here, we will be going to Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for the February 22nd Dmitry Bivol Artur Beterbiev rematch.
Yep.
Super excited. I mean, what a star-studded undercard on that one. So I'll be, honored to be part of that event, which a lot of people are labeling as the greatest fight card possibly in history.
Absolutely, yeah. We will come to that card in a bit, but getting on to the structure of the Riyadh season,
Yeah.
Obviously, you're here in the UK for Chisora and Wallin. You obviously have experienced Riyadh season massively with the job role that you have. You play a massive part in it. When you compare Riyadh season to the UK cards as regards things like atmosphere, do you see a huge difference in it personally for yourself?
I mean, certainly to a degree, you do. I think that if people were, I know that I've heard some different comments regarding the atmosphere in Saudi Arabia, and so forth. Um, the Kingdom Arena is massive.
Yeah.
It's massive. I think it holds 50,000 people in
Wow.
that range, and a lot of people don't realize how massive it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if you've got 25,000 people in there, it can still not look full.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, certainly when a fighter fights in his hometown, like we've got a handful of fighters from Manchester on the card Saturday, their friends, their family, they're going to really come out and show their enthusiasm. So, but I've really enjoyed every aspect of the cards in Saudi Arabia. And, if you look at the Usyk Fury fights, they're both of their fights. And when we did even the, 5 versus 5, when we did Matchroom versus Queensberry. Great. I mean, I really enjoy every aspect of it. The productions are just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I think the sport is still in that growing stage, if you will, in
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. But I can see every event we do, we're getting more and more people coming from all over the world,
Yeah.
and fans are growing there in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that's a great insight to it. Obviously, you've experienced like the absolute thick of it. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get to go in my lifetime, but it's a great insight to have from someone like you who's experienced it so full on. Sticking with Riyadh season, you mentioned not long ago, 22nd of February, the last crescendo.
Yeah.
Fantastic card. A lot of people are labelling it the greatest card ever. I think it's an absolute brilliant, brilliant card. For your own personal opinion, will it be the greatest card you've ever been involved with?
I mean, I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. I've been very blessed and fortunate to be part of some, great events. But a card like this, when the co-main event is
Yeah.
a heavyweight world title fight, you've really got to sit back and go, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
That Daniel Dubois coming off knocking out Anthony Joshua in front of the world is
Yeah.
now on the co-main event. It just goes to show how massive this show is.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be great for boxing. It's going to be the first Riyadh season event for 2025. And I think it's just going to continue to get better and better as the year progresses.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, like you said, the co-main event, Dubois versus Parker. I was at that fight for Anthony Joshua and Dubois. Brilliant, brilliant night at Wembley Stadium.
Incredible.
It was brilliant. I mean, do you have an opinion or a prediction on Dubois Parker? How you think it might go?
Well, I mean, look, Joseph's in great shape. I know Andy Lee's been doing a great job getting him ready for this fight. I think his confidence is up, even for Dubois. Dubois' confidence is up. He got the win over Hrgovic. He got the win over Jarrell Miller. He knocked out Anthony Joshua. I mean, this guy his confidence is sky high. So I think it's not going to be an easy fight for Daniel. I think it's certainly not going to be an easy fight, but it's hard for me, to really come up with a prediction. But if Dubois does win, I think that certainly sets up the rematch with Usyk.
Yeah, I think that's the way. Like like you say, if Dubois does win, I think that's the way to go. I mean, that fight for me is definitely a 50-50. And then like we've got the main event as well, Beterbiev versus Bivol 2.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think that one will go?
Who knows?
Oh
Who
no,
knows?
it's so.
I mean, their first fight was great. I mean, it's just going to be who maybe is sharper that night. I think it could go either way. I think it's one of those, like you said, 50-50 type fights, flip a coin. But that last fight to me was pretty razor close.
Yeah, it was.
And Beterbiev got the nod. But I'm expecting another really good fight.
Yeah, I think it'd be excellent. Like I say, the whole card. So say, like obviously the card is February the 22nd. Do you fly out a week before? A week before to
I
build
do.
build up the fight week.
Yes.
Mm.
My duties not only include ring announcing the show, but on Tuesday I host the grand arrivals.
Yeah, yeah,
And then on Wednesday I host the media workout. Thursday I host the press conference with Michael Buffer.
yeah,
Friday I host the weigh-in with Michael Buffer. And then the show I do the full undercard up to the co-main event. And then Buffer just comes in for the main event. So it's a full week of festivities. So yeah, I'll leave the United States usually on Saturday,
hmm
get in on late Sunday, and then Monday we start off with fighter meetings.
yeah,
So I don't do anything on camera on Monday. It's really just meet with the fighters, get as much information as I can, so I can feel as prepared as possible for when I host the grand arrivals. So it is a full week there, but Riyadh is a beautiful place to be. I hope our listeners or watchers can go someday and experience Saudi Arabia and a Riyadh season event. You won't regret it.
yeah. You're not the first one to say that. I mean, we spoke off camera. I said I had a trainer, Mark Tibbs, on my show before, and I had an interview with him, and I asked him about the experience of Saudi Arabia, and he said nothing but positive things. The way they look after you over there, he said it's a beautiful country as well. So sounds fantastic. I mean, obviously, from what I watch on the TV, the whole of fight week, like we spoke before, the effort they put in and what it must cost is absolutely tremendous, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. As a ring announcer who started ring announcing in front of 20, 30 people in my hometown to eventually getting to travel all the way to Saudi Arabia and be part of $1 million productions and a worldwide audience.
Yeah,
It's a real honor.
yeah, sounds fantastic. Well, in April, Queensbury Promotions, who you work for, will be leaving TNT Sports and joining the Zone. Obviously, it's a fresh start for them. Eddie Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren will be working closer together, working on the same broadcaster. Do you see this can only be good for boxing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that having one platform for boxing fans simplifies it.
Yeah,
Being that I live in the United States, I've had a lot of boxing fans ask me when I was doing BT Sport or now TNT Sport shows, hey, Thomas, how can I watch that fight? Or, where can I
yeah,
catch it? I want to see some fights from England. So I think this is going to simplify things for fans all over the world.
yeah,
And they'll be able to watch a fight card from, if somebody lives in the United States, they could watch a fight card from England in the afternoon to early evening, and then tune in for another card, maybe that's in the United States and something more in their time zone in the evening. So
yeah.
it could be an all day of boxing for boxing fans on some days. So I think it's going to be great. And I think competition is good. I think competition is healthy. I think being that Queensberry, Matchroom, Golden Boy, that we're all under one umbrella, I
Yeah,
think it's going to make each one of those companies work harder and
yeah,
strive to be better and better, because competition, I think, is healthy.
yeah. I completely agree. Competition is healthy. The only problem as boxing fans we've had in the past is like sort of like where you was coming from is show clashes. So when you've got Frank and Eddie working on the same broadcaster, that eliminate. We know we've got Boxer as well, but that eliminates them where they've had show clashes in the past. So as I agree with you, it's only best for the fans really. Um, Final question for you: this coming Saturday, Chisora Wallin, Manchester. I will be in attendance for that show. Really
Well,
looking
be
forward
sure to
to it.
say hello, Darren. Be sure to say hello.
As soon as I see you, Thomas, I'll come and be the fanboy, and
Okay.
I'll come up to you.
Okay.
So obviously Chisora Wallin main event. Tickets have sold really well. Doubt Chisora's last UK fight. How do you see that fight going?
Otto Vollen is a big guy. I just saw him. I was just downstairs having dinner, and I saw him in the restaurant. And he is a big, massive
Yeah,
dude. He's being trained by Joey Gamache, who's a former two-weight world champion based out of New York.
yeah,
That's where he's training. Of course, a native of Sweden is Otto Vollen. From what I got from them, they're ready, they're focused, and Otto Wallin is no fighter to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
And I think, Derek Chisora, we know what he can do. And it was, he was very impressive against Joe Joyce. I think a lot of people weren't expecting him to do as well as he did and
Yeah.
even win the fight. So he's obviously still got some fight inside him. But I think it's going to be whoever really wants it the most. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be who really, really wants this fight the most. And with Chisora being in England, I know he's from Finchley, London. He's not from Manchester, but I'm sure he'll have a lot of supporters from all over
Yeah.
England, and I'm sure that'll give him an extra boost. What's your thoughts on that fight, Darren? It's
Well, look, if I'll promote my show now. If you want to check the preview out, I've done one the other day. So my take on that fight is obviously I'm going. So I mean, I love Derek Chisora. He's from my home country. I'm going as a neutral fan, which I do, in all honesty, to a lot of the fights I go to. I just got a feeling that Otto Wallin might keep Derek Chisora on the end of a jab. We know Derek Chisora looks sort of bulldozes his way in and gets to a lot of guys, but I think at Derek's age now, I know he's still super fit, but at Derek's age now, I think the way Otto Wallin fights, it might suit him to keep Derek on the end of a jab and sort of go to a points victory. But
I think that would be a good strategy
yeah,
for Otto Wallin if he could fight on the outside like that and utilize his jab and reach. I think that would be a very smart move because you don't want to get on the inside with Derek Chisora.
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's the wrong tactics. And I think this style, I mean, I saw an interview with Otto Wallin where he said, oh, Derek's style will suit me, whereas I think he could have a point with that. But I do think if Derek Chisora lands, it could get very, very interesting.
You know what? I wouldn't even rule that out,
Mm,
especially when you're talking about the heavyweight division. All it takes is one good shot,
yeah,
and it could be all over. So I
absolutely.
think it's a very intriguing fight. I think it's a really good matchup, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, roll on Saturday, which is Manchester. Um, it's at the Co-op Arena live. I always like when fights are announced. I always like check ticket sales, and the tickets look like they've really sold. I mean, you've got Nathan Heaney on the card, massive ticket seller. Derek Chisora sells tickets as well. So yeah, great show ahead. And so obviously you've got the weigh-in tomorrow, and then you've got fight day Saturday. Do you sort of your preparation for fight day? How does it go? Do you prep yourself like have you all prepped now, or do you do it like on the morning of the fight? Or
I usually do my cards. It depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes these different time zones can be a little hard on your body.
yeah,
But if I'm feeling the energy after a weigh-in, I definitely don't start cards until after the weigh-in because
yeah,
there's always changes and things like that.
mm,
And even on fight day, there could be changes. So I'll do the majority of my cards the day of the event
yeah,
and get there plenty early because when it's a televised broadcast, I'll go to the TV truck and make sure I match my graphics
mm,
with the television.
yeah,
Make sure we have the same records, weights, hometown, so we're not, you know, um, colliding on that. So, but yeah, I definitely try to get as early of a start as I can with my
mm.
notes and getting mentally in that zone.
Do you get nervous for the shows now at all?
Well, you see that? This is my TV hand.
So you
uh,
do.
no, you know what? I wouldn't call it nerves anymore. I think being in this business as long as I have been, it's all about being prepared. If I feel like I'm prepared, there's really not any nerves. It's more about if I'm doing something that I don't feel
Mm,
prepared about, that'll make me nervous, I think, at this stage of my career. But certainly you could feel an extra amount of pressure with
yeah,
certain events. When we were in Riyadh for our last event, we did a Grand Arrivals outside, and where I was just waiting for my cue. Actually, I just started, and then I was waiting for my next cue, and all of a sudden, His Excellency came and just sat right in front of me,
mm.
like 6 feet in front of me, just staring right at me. And I'm like, okay, this is pressure right here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
you know.
definitely.
But yeah, I don't really get nervous anymore.
Yeah,
Early in my career, I used to get very nervous.
Yeah.
But I think just like with any job, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I did say last question a few questions ago, but I'm not
Hey,
engrossed in this
keep it
interview.
going.
I was going to say I'm not engrossed in this interview. I've just been carrying on and on. No, I think everything I had, like I wanted to, the questions I had for you, I've got everything out of you. Honestly, Thomas, this has been a fascinating interview, and to find that out at the start about your wrestling, I had no. I mean, I've done my research, but I had no idea about the wrestling at all. So it's been great. It's great to learn all these things about you. And the quick thing about the nerves there, I mean, obviously you're that used to it now. Like you say, when you first start out, I should imagine you've been very, very nervous, and then it just becomes all natural to you now, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's funny because people even ask Michael Buffer that. And one of the biggest honors for me, especially, with the Riyadh season events, is to work with Michael Buffer. We've now done 11, I believe, Riyadh season events, 9 in Saudi Arabia, 1 in the United States, and 1 here in England. And people always come up to him and ask him questions like that. Mr.
Mm,
Buffer, do you get nervous, or do you know this and
mm,
that? And but yeah, like I said, it's really one of those things to where once you've been doing it and doing it and doing it,
yeah,
the nerves kind of go away.
yeah. Well, have a great evening on Saturday doing your
Thank you
fantastic
very
job
much.
that you always do. Keep up the great work that you do on the Riyadh season cards and all the work you've been doing for Queensbury.
Thank you.
It's every time you come on, like it's Thomas Tribe, and when I saw you on Platform X, and I actually saw I could DM you, I thought that's the one man I want to get on my show. So really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Well, Darren, thank you very much for your interest to have me. Congratulations on your show. I understand you're doing really, really well. Everyone listening, subscribe. This guy here's got a great future. He's going to be bringing a lot of great interviews and a lot of great content to this YouTube channel. So subscribe to Darren Aston, and thank you again for having me.
And that was no problem, Thomas. And that was a great master of ceremonies speech. That was fun. You can tell that's the job you do. It's great promotion, mate.
I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, honestly brilliant, Thomas. It's a fascinating interview. Like you say, I hope everyone can like, comment, subscribe to my channel. I'm only trying to do the best on my small channel starting out. And as Thomas says, subscribe to my channel. Brilliant, that was, mate.
You got it.
All right, Thomas. Thanks, and might see you Saturday.
We'll see you Saturday.
Cheers, mate. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.